All right. Hopefully you guys can hear me and all that because this is the first time that I'm setting up a stream on my YouTube studio. So hopefully this is working and all that. So I've just started. So I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for someone. Just waiting for a couple of people to show up, and I think we can get started. Just waiting for everything to get set up. All right, I think we'll make a start anyway. So I think I've got everything set up. But yeah, I'm just waiting for people to come in and all that. But welcome, guys, to my first stream on my channel. If you guys don't know, my name is Sahil Bora, and I specialize in doing mobile app development for clients. So what I do is I pretty much specialize in developing mobile apps that integrate with embedded devices. And prior to that, previously I ran the channel C++ Better Explained, where I taught C++ for around about over 9 years and a bit. So I was doing it for a very long time, where I was teaching C++ to complete beginners since 2014, and then I started that business in 2015, but I finished up running that business at around about last year, because I felt like I had completed. I felt like I had done everything in regards to teaching C++ to beginners and all that, and I was transitioning towards moving towards doing mobile app development for clients. So that's why I started my own personal channel of sahilbora.com, where I specialize in talking about mobile app development for businesses, and as well for startups as well. So that's what I've been doing the last few months and a bit, trying to obviously starting a YouTube channel always from scratch is probably like the hardest thing, especially like, especially when you're putting out content, putting out a lot of content out there, trying to see what works and what doesn't work with the audience and all that, and what's sticking and what's not sticking and all that. So trying to go from like 0 to 100 from scratch on YouTube is it can be very hard at the start, but but I've done it before, but it's a lot of work and all that. But you just got to start putting in the hard yards and all that, and hopefully it'll eventually pay off and all that. So pretty much what I see in regards to what I see in regards to a lot of people who wanting to develop an app and all that. a lot of people tend to jump the gun when they're trying to develop an app. But a lot of what I see is that they don't seem to validate their idea at the start before spending like thousands and thousands of dollars actually developing an app. Probably the most important thing that you guys need to do before you spend any money on developing an app is actually to validate your idea. Now, recently I've put out some videos in regards to validating your app ideas. So I've actually got a video coming out in regards to the three steps to validate your app idea, but I can talk about it now before the video gets released. So pretty much the three simple steps to validate your app idea is pretty much the first thing that you need to validate your app idea is obviously you're going to need a landing page pretty much explaining what your app is about and all that. So this landing page is going to be having like a headline, some app mock-ups and some screens and some paragraphs of text, explaining your unique selling proposition for your app and all that and everything, and what your app is about and how your app is going to help solve the user's problem and all that. And then after you've created your landing page, after that you're going to be running what we call paid traffic, paid advertising campaign towards your landing page. So because the problem with utilizing organic traffic is that organic traffic is like it's a very slow process to build up organic traffic. So organic traffic, what I mean by that is posting YouTube videos, writing articles, maybe posting on Reddit, maybe you'll get some quick traction on Reddit, but then it could quickly die out and all that. But whereas the great thing about paid traffic is that like once you have a targeted campaign towards your landing page, and then it's optimized for your target audience, you can just turn on the paid advertising campaign and let it run and see whether your landing page will convert and all that, which leads to the third step of like, okay, so you've created the landing page and all that, and then you run campaigns towards your landing page and all that, and then you're able to see the results. Are actually people converting on your landing page, or am I actually getting email addresses from this landing page that I've created, or is it actually converting to low dollar offers? Am I actually getting pre-orders for this landing page that I'm running? Just wanted to see if someone hopped in. But yeah, so yeah, I was just checking my phone, but yeah, but obviously after yeah, so the third step as I was saying was that after you run the paid traffic campaign is to obviously analyze the results and see what's happened in regards to the paid ads. Is the target audience that I've got correct? Is the landing page, is it been optimized for conversions? Is my USP, is my USP like connecting with the audience, and is it actually converting? So those are the three steps in regards to to validating your app idea, and 3 easy steps. I've got a video about that coming out on this tomorrow actually. So yeah, you guys will be able to dig in and watch those as well. The next thing I want to talk about is about there's a debate between should I either develop my app with a cross-platform solution within like Flutter or React Native, or should I develop my app on a native platform only? There are pros and cons to each, but the way that I normally say to clients is I normally say it's better to develop your app with a cross-platform solution, unless you really want to take advantage of the full power in an Android phone or an iOS device. But I highly prefer that when you're working with me, I normally go by using it really depends on project to project basis. But what I've been using lately with my clients and working in the industry as well in the last 2 to 3 years is that we've been primarily using Flutter to develop cross-platform solutions on both Android and iOS, because it saves me a lot of time on not having to maintain two separate code bases. having one code base on Android separately and one separate code base on iOS separately. We're able to do everything, the front end and the back end, within the Flutter framework, which has and it also saves you time and money as well when you're developing an app from scratch and not having to maintain two separate code bases at the same time, especially when you're deploying and launching your app at the same time, which adds a lot more work and adds in a lot more stress if something goes wrong when you're deploying your app for the first time as well. So that is my view of the cross-platform versus native development debate. But there are times when you only specifically want to work on an Android as well, because I've had scenarios when I've worked with when I've been asked to only work on a specific Android tablet. I think it was a Samsung tablet that they were using in the automotive industry, and we only developed those automotive applications within the Android framework only. So those Android apps were specifically developed within Android Java, specifically only for those tablets. At the time when I was working for that company for about 18 months, developing apps for the automotive industry. So I was there from 2019 to 2021. So around about, I was working there during the whole pandemic, during the first year of the pandemic in 2020. So that's. But yeah, it really depends on case by case. But for the majority of the time, I'm gearing towards cross-platform solutions such as preferably Flutter, but React Native is alright as well. In regards to React Native, I've had a little bit of experience with React Native, but React Native is geared towards web and mobile applications, whereas React Native whereas Flutter is geared towards more of mobile and desktop and all that, but they are branching towards web applications as well from what I see. But React Native is still alright, but I've just had less experience with it and all that. The next question I have is about, how do you find and work with a reliable developer? Now, this is actually a good question. So the way that you find, a reliable developer for your project, that's tailored towards your project, the best thing to do is actually find a developer who has actually worked on projects similar to what you were developing. So if you're working on, let's say, a project, that requires Bluetooth integration, with that embedded device, find someone who has experience developing projects who has done something similar. If you want to develop an app that's going to be like the next Uber or the next Airbnb or something, or if you want to make, make a parody app of that, for your own country or something like that, find someone that's done something similar. Look, pretty much the game changer for finding a reliable developer, and as well as when you're talking to them, is actually look at their portfolio and ask them questions about what they've done in the past, and is what they've done in the past actually relevant for you, and can actually help you, and actually ask them about what tech stack they've worked with and all that, and if they're able to bring your designs to life and all that, because especially nowadays you can easily bring designs to life with AI tools, but back before these AI tools used to exist, it was actually a bit more work actually bringing these UX UI designs to life and all that. But with the help of these AI tools now, you can actually quickly bring these UX UI designs that have been designed in Figma or Adobe XD and all that, and we can easily bring these designs into Flutter code or React Native code within minutes. So that's the great thing as well. But to answer the question in regards to finding a reliable developer, it's preferable that you work with a developer who's actually preferably based it'd be great if they're based within the same city as you are in, so that you can actually have face-to-face meetups with you and all that, so that you can, so that if you've got any questions directly, you can ask them, so that they can answer your questions directly and all that, when you have meetings with them in person. But preferably if they're in the same city, but also within the same state or country, that's preferable as well. Because I've heard some horror stories in regards to people trying to cut corners in regards to hiring offshore freelancers on Upwork and Freelancer.com, where they've tried to cut corners, but then they've ended up wasting a lot more time and money trying to get it right, the fourth or fifth time, and they still haven't got anywhere in the right place and all that in regards to offshore development. So I highly recommend that the guys don't do offshore development, because you're going to be running into so many roadblocks, so many nightmares in regards to trying to communicate everything and get everything right the first time and everything like that. And when you're working with an offshore team, the person that you're actually talking to, he's probably going to delegate the work to somebody else as well. So what's going to happen is that you're going to have a client manager. He's going to take all the work, and then he's just going to delegate it to his team, and then he's going to communicate it to his team, and then everything's just going to get lost in translation. So it's just going to be layers of work getting lost in bureaucracy and all that. Whereas if you work with a direct freelancer in the same city or in the same state or country, you just communicate, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I want implemented, and this is what needs to be done. And if he's a one man show, he's just going to be communicating with you directly and just implementing what you want and just get the work done. There's not going to be any bureaucracy or things getting lost in translation and all that in the app design and implementation. So that's why I highly recommend that you guys work with the contractor consultant who's going to be a partner with you, who's not just going to be a code monkey, who actually understands what you want and actually has a business background to implement what guys want in your design and implementation for your app ID or your embedded product and all that. And the next thing I can talk about in regards to when you're working with the contractor or a freelancer and all that in regards to designing and developing your app and all that, a good question is how can I reduce my cost when I'm working with a developer and all that. So the best way to reduce your cost is, what you need to do is that when you're working with a contractor, you need to establish the clear scope and guidelines in a app design documents and all that. So when you have a contract and when you're working with say a client or a contractor, you need to outline the clear scope of what you want to be designed and implemented in the scope. Because I've had scenarios before where I've worked with clients before, and they've outlined and they've come back to me and they've said, no, we want something else, we want it this way, we want it that way, which was clearly out of the scope of what they originally want implemented. And I've had to say to them, listen, I'm sorry, this is completely outside of the scope of what you guys wanting to implement. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to charge you another milestone to implement what this completely different scope this completely different scope that you want implemented and all that. So it's really important when you're working with when you're working with the contract, when you're working with the contractor, that you have a clear scope, and you actually have a design and implementation document of actually what you want implemented to actually reduce costs and all that, so that there are no surprises out there when you're working with the contractor and all that and everything. But another way to reduce costs as well is to obviously use a cross-platform solution and all that, and obviously have a clear understanding of which platforms are you going to be deploying to. If you're only going to be deploying to Android only, you're going to be saving some cost as well, because with iOS as well, you have to pay money to you had to pay more when you actually deploying your app onto the App Store, because you actually need to pay Apple. I think it's around about $100 a year to join the Apple app development program and all that, so that you can deploy your app onto the App Store and all that. I think with Google, when you're deploying your app onto the Google Play Store, I think it's a one-time fee of like $30 or something. So it's a lot more cheaper and all that when you're deploying it out onto the App Store, and all that, and everything. So yeah, so those are pretty much my two main ideas of like how to reduce costs when you're developing an app. Um, Pretty much have a clear scope and guidelines when you're working with a contractor and all that, and just to say this is what you want implemented, and this is the pure scope and all that of like what you want implemented, so that there are no surprises and all that. And also make a decision right at the start whether you're going to uh, deploy your app on both Android and iOS, or only on one platform only, and all that. So yeah, those were the four questions. Those were the four things those were the four things that I had in mind that I wanted to talk about today in my live today. This was my first live that I've ever done. So obviously I've got a lot more videos coming out on my YouTube channel and all that. But it would be really great if you could comment. You know, what videos would you like me to talk about in regards to, you know, mobile app development, embedded development, and the two working together. And also, you can also ask me anything in regards to validating your app idea in business development and marketing as well, because that's also something that I shine in as well, because because I can't stress again, it's really important before you spend any money on development, that you guys really validate your idea first before you spend money on development and all that. Because sometimes when I do work with clients, and they do come to me and say, oh no, my app idea is going to be a game changer and all that, but I don't have an email list, I don't have a website, I haven't talked to any potential customers or anything like that. And it kind of raises eyebrows, because what's the word, they're kind of what's the word, building it and hoping they'll come, and that's it's very risky. So I highly suggest that you guys don't do that. So those are my thoughts on you know, validating your idea first before you diving straight into designing and developing and deploying your app out onto the market and all that, which I've talked about in my videos as well. So if you go to my channel, I talk about, you know, validating your business idea. I've got a video coming about tomorrow about, you know, the 3 steps to quickly validate your app idea, you know, in a matter of days and all that. And I've also got a breakdown of, like, you know, talking about, you know, analyzing the competitors, interviewing your market and all that, and also also reviewing, like seeing if, like, what other competitors are doing, and also seeing what you can engineer in terms of a value skew in competitor apps as well, for the app that you're developing as well, for your product as well. So I think that's it. I'm pretty much I'm gonna leave it there. So I hope you guys enjoyed this first live stream that I had, answering the questionnaire that I had in regards to mobile app development and all that. And I hope to see you guys again in another live stream.